podcast. Okay, welcome back to the show. And today I have a man that'll be familiar on your screens. You've probably seen him in his time in the WWE as Ricardo Rodriguez. Jesus Rodriguez, how you doing, man?
I'm doing great. It is 9:30 in the morning over here at this moment. So it's nice to wake up. I have my coffee going. I'm ready to go, man. I'm excited.
It's 2:35 here, but I'm on the Monster. I'm just coming
I have
in.
my monster in my backpack. I'm ready for it too.
I was in the States for WrestleMania this year, and you've got a way better selection of Monster than we do over there. So a little bit jealous of that.
Yeah, no, we definitely do. But I mean, I always stick to the same kind. So like, I don't care about the big selection. I stick to the white one.
The white Ultra Silver.
Yeah, that's the one I stick to.
Yeah, I'm on I don't know if you guys have it over there, the Valentino Rossi. It's a yellow can.
No. No, actually, maybe. I don't know. I just stick to my white one.
It's kind of just like an orange kind of soda flavor, but it's very nice, very easy to drink.
Nice.
And a lot of sugar as needed.
Yeah. I mean, because I do coffee a lot. And then I have to put a bunch of sugar on it. So I'm basically drinking sugar with a little bit of coffee in
it. Anything just to keep you going, anyway.
Yeah. That's the hopes and dreams.
Yeah, man. Look, we'll start off by I've been kind of following your stuff on social media, and you're talking about sobriety and things like that, and where you are now in your life. Do you want to just tell us kind of what was going on and where you're at now? It's fascinating, really.
To do a long story relatively short, over the last several years, I've had a very big battle against alcohol. And I would go through moments of sobriety, but on my own, and I would just kind of fall back into it. So many times I would go relatively long terms, and then in my head I would just tell myself, I've gone X amount of months already clean. I can do a beer. A beer is fine. And then you just kind of fall back into your stupid shit. Sorry, I don't know if we're cussing. I cuss a lot. I'm sorry.
Oh, you can say whatever you want, man.
So this last time around, I was in Egypt for a year, and then prior to that, I did detox. I was clean for a little while. I was on this thing called Vivitrol, which is supposed to help out the cravings. And I was in Egypt over there. I was doing so, and then I came back to the States and just totally screwed it all up. And then I went on a big little bender for a while, and there was a lot of things that occurred during that time that I came back after Egypt that just kind of fueled like the urge to just drown my sorrows, as they would say. And then I just kept waking up in detox at the hospital, not knowing how I got there. I was in a bad spot. I was in a very bad spot until one day I was in San Antonio, and once again I woke up in detox at the hospital, and I kind of told myself, like, I can't do this anymore. So I reached out on Twitter, and I basically put it out there. I was like, hey, I screwed up. I need to go get help. And just out of nowhere, some random stranger from up here in Pennsylvania contacted me by the name of Chris Dreisbach, which actually this is not intentional, but it's from a company called Blueprints. That was just the shirt that I grabbed today. And he sent me a message, and he's like, hey, if you're really willing or wanting to get help, we can work something out. So at the time I was like, yeah, okay, whatever. because I looked at his Twitter, and then I saw where it was located. I was like, Lancaster, Pennsylvania, and I looked it up, and there's nothing around here. This is like Amish country, like legit. It's Amish country.
Yeah.
So I was wary about it at first. I was like, why is a stranger reaching out? Because when you're an alcoholic, when you're an addict, you're suspicious of everybody and trust no one.
Yeah.
Um, but you want to use everybody. So I reached out to a couple folks from WWE because WWE has a system where if you were an alumni, they will help you out if you ever need this kind of a help.
Yeah.
Um, so while I was finishing up my detox at the hospital, um, I finally got a hold of somebody from WWE, and they had told me if I was really interested in getting, they can set me up somewhere. So I told them, I was like, hey, I'm talking to somebody at this time, at this moment, Chris Dreisbach, and then the guy Bob Kellar, who I was speaking to from WWE, he goes, "Oh yeah, we know him. He's worked with us in the past. Like you'll be fine. Go there." It's like
Mhm.
awesome. All right, that's all I needed. So the next thing I knew, 2 days later, I was on a plane up to Pennsylvania, and I did my time in rehab for a month. It was a 28-day thing. I went to aftercare afterwards, and then I just kind of liked it here, and I decided to stay. um, Throughout this journey, I've learned a lot because this is the first time that I go through this process like properly, like
Yeah.
the rehab, the meetings, the therapy, all that stuff. Because I've done it, I've done sobriety on my own in the past, but I was stubborn to ask people for help, and I would just keep
Yeah.
falling back on, keep falling back on my ass. Um, so this time going through this process like properly and getting the help, and most importantly, the therapy has really helped with this whole understanding of what addiction is, how we are going to be addicts like throughout the rest of the life. So we can't do this on our own. We do need help.
Mhm.
Um, so I'm very forever thankful of Christopher Dreisbach and Blueprints, the Bob Keller from WWE, and then just WWE in themselves. I just completed 5 months clean. Haven't had any cravings. The thought pops up. Of course, it's always going to pop up.
Yeah.
Um, Especially in professional wrestling, which we are surrounded by drugs and alcohol and all that stuff.
Yeah.
The party lifestyle, we're surrounded by it.
Yeah.
Um, but I'm thankful that I have a good support system because ultimately, I think that's the key component in all of this is the support system. Because I can keep doing this whole like meetings and stuff, but if I don't believe in any of it, it's all bullshit. And I'm just gonna, because it happens. It does happen where people go and then they go to the meetings, but then they go and get drunk or high afterwards.
Mhm.
Um, so the support system is very very important, at least in my mind, and I think I have that here. And throughout this whole process too, just staying busy. And I'm sure we'll probably touch base on this. We had a huge major event this past weekend, and I just opened up a wrestling school here of my own.
Wow.
With all of that, I have motivation. I have some sort of dedication, something to look forward to, and something that excites me to want to stay clean. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah.
And it's not a case where, by the way, congratulations. And it's not a case on does the wrestling lifestyle feed into those addictions kind of from being on the road and being surrounded by it all the time? And do you
Easily.
believe by going but do you believe by going back as like this is your school now and you're the guy to look up to, do you think that things can be different and you can kind of stay away from all that by the role that you're in?
So yeah, definitely the lifestyle is what fed into it. I said the other day because I was reading some tweets. It wasn't directed at me or anything. It was just I was reading the timeline, and then there's a lot of bitterness and anger directed at XYZ person because they did this or they got signed or they accomplished this or whatever XYZ.
Yeah.
And I kind of look back and I was like, man, I used to be like that. I used to be very angry. I used to be very bitter. I had the whole why me, why not me, excuse me, why not me, why them? I've done this. Why am I not being picked? Why am I not doing this? Um, and it just kind of fueled me into just going and reaching for the bottle because I was so angry. And the only way that I knew how to deal with it was to get plastered and get drunk.
Yeah.
Um, that was my drug of choice was alcohol. Um, and and I mean, a lot of it stemmed too from the life on the road. A big thing that I feel was my thing was it all started from being on the road, and all of a sudden, like, what happens when you're not anymore? What happens when that light turns off, and then you're stuck at home? You have money, you have nothing to do, and you're not being wanted. You're not part of something big anymore.
Yeah,
And I know it's not at the same scale, but I can totally understand where, and we see it all the time with celebrities
yeah, of
that,
course, yeah,
yeah, like your Britney Spears and all that stuff, like your Miley Cyrus, all that, where they just go off on this binge and then they just drop off. And I can't compare myself to that extreme, but
yeah.
I
But
understand where it comes from.
show
Um,
business.
yeah, no, definitely, definitely. And I know for me, it started off because I was always very open about my insomnia, which I still deal with. Um, I've had very bad insomnia for many years, and then my way at the beginning of how to treat it, because in my mind I didn't want to take pills because I didn't want to get addicted,
Yeah,
uh, was to, I would have wine because wine would always make me sleepy. And then after a while, one glass wasn't enough, so two glasses, and then two glasses wasn't enough, and then the bottle, and then the bottle wasn't enough. So then I would switch over to liquor, and then the liquor wasn't enough, so I would switch over to like full on like jugs of liquor, just to go to sleep. And I would wake up, I feel like garbage, and then I was like, well, I know what will fix it, more liquor. So it became a habit. So that's how it started for me, was the life on the road, and then when it ended, and then that's when I started getting bitter and angry, and I realized that I was putting blame on things that I was able to control. I was able to control how I felt, because nobody is responsible for how I feel. I'm responsible for how I feel. I know no nobody can tell me things and allow it to hurt me unless I let them.
yeah,
Um, but I will let people hurt me, not directly, but stuff that they would say. I will let it affect me. Um, so yeah, it's been a process. It's been definitely been a process that I'm still gonna be learning. I don't think I'll ever stop learning and understanding. So it definitely, the show business side of it was very big, a big key of this whole addiction thing.
yeah. We'll touch on the show business now. You've done a lot of wrestling before you appeared on most people's TV screens. Would remember you from
Yes.
coming on to WWE and being Alberto's ring announcer for a while. How did that role come about? That you were obviously training at the time, I think in FCW, and then you're on TV as a ring announcer slash manager. How did that come about?
So actually, it wasn't even quite like that because I started on TV first and then got sent down to FCW. So
Okay.
I was very different than everybody else. I was wrestling for 4 years on the independents before I went to WWE. I had a tryout back in 2000, was like August 10th, I think it was 2010, at the
Yeah.
Staples Center. It was the day after SummerSlam. So whatever day SummerSlam 2010 was, I did my tryout the next day on Raw.
Yeah.
Um, and then we did SmackDown. I debuted in SmackDown the next day in Fresno, California. So I went in and did a wrestling tryout. Um, but then afterwards, Ty Bailey, who was the scout at the time, before Kenny and Seaman came in, Ty Bailey comes up and he approaches me and he says, "Hey, have you ever done ring announcing before?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure, of course I have." Da da da, which I never had. And then he's like, "Do you have a tuxedo?" I was like, "Yes, of course," which I didn't. And then he's like, "We have this thing coming up tomorrow. Can you make it?" I was like, "Yeah, sure." So I went to Bakersfield, excuse me, Bakersfield the next day, and I did the whole thing. I did the Alberto thing. I met him. I met Vince finally the second day, um, and it just kind of went from there. So it was supposed to be a one-time thing that turned into a multiple year journey, which I'm
Yeah.
very thankful for. I'm very thankful for. Yeah, it was awesome. It was so freaking
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah. You're a very memorable character and obviously an important extension of Alberto's persona and everything about him as well. So you were touched on the first time meeting Vince. What was he like, and did he give you any pointers on what he wanted out of a managerial role from you?
So it wasn't even a managerial role. I just kind of fell into it with time. That was just like I
Mhm.
said. I was just supposed to be there for the debut. That was the
Yeah,
original plan, just the debut. But Vincent loved it so much that he just decided to keep me around. The only real advice that he gave me was, and I quote, "No, not like that. Be more Hispanic." I still don't know what that means. I still don't know what that means. But I'm assuming I just took what he said because when the very first time that I did the rehearsal for the intro thing, I was thinking, very formal, very, Tony Chimmel, very, Justin Roberts, formal,
yeah.
um, Howard Finkel. And then when he comes down the ramp and he's watching me, he just goes, "No, not like that. Be more Hispanic." I heard the fuck that means.
Did he want you to be
So
maybe more flamboyant? Was it or
I
something
don't
like that?
know, but here's what I immediately thought of. I thought of the guys from AAA, the announcers from AAA, which are very loud, and then I thought eventually of the soccer play or soccer announcers from that are in Spanish. Because if you watch, and I'm a big football, I'm a big football soccer player fan.
Same.
But if you watch it in English versus when you watch it in Spanish, there's two completely different vibes, two completely different energies. Uh, so I mean, I was just watching, United and Liverpool the other day, and then it was great. The game was fun, but you watch commentary in English versus in Spanish, the energies don't even match. So
It's
that's
more
kind of what I
passion.
figured. Oh yeah, yeah. Yeah. So that's kind of what I figured. So when I did the whole thing, I became more energized and louder and animated, which I eventually with time, because obviously the first time is not going to be perfect, at least in my
Yeah.
eyes, because I needed to find my niche. Um, so it took time to kind of develop into what it eventually the whole Ricardo thing became. But yeah, that's pretty much how Vince said it. No, not like that. Be more Hispanic.
Yeah. You and Alberto had a good chemistry on screen. What was he like off screen? Were you guys friends? And obviously, a lot of stuff went on with him later on, and we don't need to get into that. That's already been covered by him and other people. But do you think there's ever a way back for him into that company either?
As the beautiful thing about wrestling is that the whole never say never thing. That's the beautiful
Yeah,
thing about pro wrestling. Never say never. There's a lot of folks that like you're like, how the hell can this person come back from whatever situation? And then sure enough, next thing you know, they're inducted into Hall of Fame.
yeah,
Or they're back on WWE TV, or they're at a different company. So to me, he was always great. To me, he was always great. We rode together, and I do believe, and this is you got probably gonna give me some heat, but I do believe that even now, with the exception of Heyman, because Heyman is a whole nother him is a whole nother level.
yeah,
Up until now, I don't think anybody has any other any duo hasn't come across or done or gotten that chemistry that we had. I'm a firm believer because there was a lot more to what we did on screen. We were always together. We rode together. We basically lived together and on the road because we were always sharing hotels and whatever. But we're always together, so we got to learn about each other and then feed off of each other. And I think that chemistry was able to be portrayed on TV.
mm,
When we did interviews, they always had it together, especially in the beginning, because he was still taking English classes. So there was times where he would get stuck, and I kind of figured what he was trying to say, so I would just jump in, and we just had that dynamic,
yeah,
which we also had it on TV. There was a lot of times where when we had these promos, there was these long ass promos, and when you're learning English, when you're given something like that, it's tough to remember. And then after a while they only gave him bullet points, but in the beginning, so I will remember the promo. So when I felt like he was getting stuck, I would walk behind him and I would just whisper, or say, go on about Sheamus or go on about XYZ guy, whatever, or say this,
mhm.
and then that would just kind of remind him, all right, this is where I have to go now. But I'm a firm believer that up until this point, nobody else has touched what we have done. Um, and again, I exclude Heyman because Heyman is a whole nother
Yeah.
Heyman is a
Brock,
whole nother
Brock,
thing.
Brock and Paul are obviously that was a good one. I like
Yeah.
Heyman and Roman as well, but I think Brock and Paul works better. But that's only just my personal
Yeah,
opinion.
yeah, yeah, sure, sure.
Yeah,
But
you've done a
I'm a
lot of
firm believer.
yeah, you done a lot of funny kind of segments with guys like Sheamus, where you dressed up as Sheamus, you dressed up as the
Yeah,
Big Show. One thing I just watched a while ago was the time where you ran over Big Show's leg in the
yeah,
parking lot for that. Did you guys
yeah.
have a lot of fun making that?
Yeah, a lot of what I really enjoyed was that Vince was very keen on keeping people's genuine reactions. So when we dressed up as Sheamus, he didn't know until right before we went out.
Right,
Um, he knew we were doing a segment, but he didn't know that I was dressing up as him.
right,
Same with me when we dressed up as Swagger and Zeb Coulter. They did not know until we did the promo.
brilliant.
They knew we were doing a package. They knew we were doing a promo on stage, and they were going to be in the ring, but they did not know what the promo was, the video package. Um, so the reaction that they had on TV were genuine. Um, yeah, those are fun. Those are so much fun, especially because they didn't. A lot of times they didn't tell the other guys we were doing whatever. They were just
Yeah.
saying, all right, so this is what we have in mind, and then the rest would just kind of wing it. And then that's what the winging was. It was all the dressing up part.
It was probably hard for those guys to not laugh at the situation
Oh yeah,
being there in the
yeah.
moment, you know?
When we did the Sheamus thing, when we walked out, because they had asked him for his boots, because I wore his boots,
Yeah.
and they had told him, I think that they were gonna, I think that they had told him that they were gonna shoot something for the WWE magazine, so they wanted his boots. Yeah, I was gonna wear them. What's it called? But when we got to Gorilla right before we went out, he just looked at me. He's like, "You motherfucker!" I'm like, "Yes, yes, absolutely."
Yeah, he seems like a cool guy. I've never met the guy. He's one of our own here in Ireland. What's he like to work with?
It was great. What I really enjoyed with about him, and then if you talk to Alberto, he'll tell you the same. Like Sheamus, like he'll hit you, but he expects it back, which is great. He wasn't a little bitch.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, he if he hits you, he expects you to hit him back. Um, so yeah, he was always great. He was always great. And then what I really did enjoy about working with a lot of these folks was everybody was so open about ideas, which is something that I used to do a lot. With time, I kind of got I put my hand into the cookie jar a little more and more each time because they started listening to ideas that I would pitch or whatever, or they started coming up to me and asking for pitches on transitions or moves or how to get to this part. Even the producers. And then Seamus was one of the few people that when we had a cool little spot, he would go to the producer or even Vince, and he would go, "Oh, that was Ricardo's idea," and then that's how things eventually kind of developed. But he was
yeah,
always great. We had a lot of fun with him.
yeah. In terms of like one of your, or probably, I don't know what your favorite moment in WWE is, but does your time with Alberto against Brett and John Cena, does that rank up there?
Yeah, definitely, 100%, 100%. Because it's Brett, and I could
Yeah,
be wrong, and somebody can fact check me, but I want to say, I don't know if it was or not, but I think that was Bret Hart's last official TV match. I think,
it could have
um,
been. Yeah,
yeah, I think, and I could be wrong, but I think that was his last official TV match, and that was with me. So that's freaking awesome. Sorry,
yeah,
Brett. You get Ricardo.
yeah.
Um, but just how the whole thing kind of came about because we were in Calgary, I think we were at the gym, and then we get a text, and I think it was from Road Dog, and he's like, "Hey, where you guys at?" And we're like, "Oh, we're at the gym." So both myself and Alberto got the text, so like, and they just go, "Tonight it's Alberto and Ricardo versus John Cena and Bret Hart." We're like, "Get the fuck out of here! Shut the fuck up." But then normally they would send a text, and then like a couple minutes later they put the LOL, JK, whatever.
Yeah.
And we never got that. So we're like, I wonder if this is real. So we get to the arena, and then sure enough, um, so of course, the little kid in me is marking out, and I'm happy and excited. So then because Ricardo's not a wrestler, I always carried my gear, my wrestling gear, but Ricardo's not a wrestler. So we had to go out, and I went to like a little. It was like a women's fitness store, and I bought like women's tights. Um, just because Ricardo's not a wrestler.
Yeah, they want
Um,
you to look gimmicky.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So
Yeah,
so that was so much fun. But I've had a lot of good moments, but for different reasons. Obviously, my first WrestleMania in Atlanta, WrestleMania 27. My last one was WrestleMania 30 in New Orleans, and that's when Brock beat Taker for the streak. when Daniel Bryan won the when he won both titles. Um, Let me see, my first Royal Rumble. That was awesome. The TLC spot,
Yeah, that was
Baltimore.
wow.
So a lot of moments. I had a lot of moments, but for different reasons.
Yeah, I'll talk to you on that Undertaker Brock moment because I haven't actually talked to somebody that was there at the time. Now, obviously, you probably remember this. We remember watching it in real time at home. So, were you watching this backstage, and what was the
No, I was in
reaction like?
commentary. I was on commentary.
Oh yes,
I
yeah,
was in Spanish commentary. So
yeah,
I was front row. Yeah, I was front
what?
row, man. And I honestly legit thought that that Taker forgot to kick out. That's what I thought. And then because the refs are supposed to count, legit. If he doesn't
Yeah,
kick out, he doesn't kick out. Otherwise, they get fined or they get in trouble. Um, but I legit thought that Taker forgot to kick out because it's happened
what?
to me in the past, and any wrestler out there will tell you that it has probably happened to them too. Where in your mind you think you're probably like at two, and the ref is already at three. Um, it's happened to me several times in the past. Um, and I think what really got me too, because they got me. I'll admit they got me. What really got
Yeah,
me was they didn't play Brock's music right away. Nobody said anything. Everybody got quiet. Even the announcers were quiet. And then it got so awkward for me. And because I was on a Spanish table, it was myself, Carlos Cabrera, and Marcelo Rodriguez. And I think Carlos was in the middle, so he's the one guiding us. And
yeah,
I think he heard that I was about to say something, and then he just kind of grabbed, because you know when you're about to talk, after a while you do like that to catch your breath to whatever. I think he heard it or he saw me, and he just grabs my hand. He looks at me, and he just nods. He goes, "I was like, oh, you knew, you asshole, you knew." Um, yeah, that was surreal. That was so surreal.
yeah.
And
What was
then when they
the
played the music,
what was the vibe like then? Kind of walking backstage after that. Was it the talk of the locker room?
I no, well, I didn't go back until the end of the show, so I don't know what the
Yeah,
talk was because there were so many good moments that during that whole thing. I
yeah,
think that was the same one that like Cesaro won the Andre the Giant Memorial.
yeah,
Yeah, like I said, the the Taker one, and then the Daniel Bryan deal. So there was a lot of awesome moments that there were to talk about. But I think definitely the Undertaker losing the streak was big.
mm,
Um, and then to be honest, by the time that we were done, because we were there, because remember when you do commentary, you're there the whole freaking time.
yeah,
I just want to get back to my hotel.
yeah.
Um,
The a lot of people bring up Alberto's feud, and it was a great feud at the time with CM Punk when he was supposedly kind of leaving that time and taking the belt and doing all that kind of
mm,
thing. What was your experience like with Punk? Obviously, I read you read things on the internet all the time, but
yeah, yeah.
now it's coming out that he's unhappy in AEW or blah blah blah. This could be all storyline, but did he ever seem unhappy when you were there, or what was he like with the guys?
See, here's the thing. All right, so Punk with us, he was always great from the beginning. He was always great because he's a wrestling fan as well. So he knew who Alberto was. He knew his family, his lineage.
Yeah,
He even though he didn't know me, I think I just kind of got accepted by association. And then once we started working together, I think I just kind of became okay in his book. I became all right. We would do house shows, and I was always there for my spots. There was even a spot that we used to do a lot on live events where I would take like Punk's shirt or something, and I would just run around the
yeah,
ring, and then he would come chase me, or Alberto would, whatever, and then Punk would go chase him around the ring, and then Punk would go eventually and dive onto Alberto, but I would catch him, and then that was Punk's idea. So the fact that he trusted me to catch him every single time, and I never
yeah.
dropped him, that I think that speaks highly, that he trusts me to catch him and I drop him. Um, I can see where the rumors come from. I also did see that side a few times, but I personally never had issues with Punk, and I don't think Alberto had issues with him either. I
Yeah.
think there was always that mutual respect between the three of us, and I still to this day I still respect the Shadow Punk. I really do, and I don't know what the deal is in AEW because I don't work there. I've been there, but I don't work there,
Yeah.
so I don't know. And it's all speculation. We always only read one side of a story, and
Yes.
then the fucking internet oftentimes is not even worth defending yourself because they've already made up their mind.
Yeah.
Um, so whatever the story is, the internet's already made up their mind. Um, but whatever the truth may be, fuck, none of us know unless we're there.
Yeah. And
None of us are there.
in fairness to him as well, he got big balls to step into the UFC. I know it didn't work out
Oh
for
yeah.
him, but
Oh
still,
yeah. Yeah, yeah,
you
yeah.
know,
Oh,
he,
100%, 100%. Yeah, and he lost. I mean, but dude, yeah, like you said, it's big balls to get in there.
yeah,
So I get a kick out of folks that critique people on experiences that they've never experienced themselves.
exactly.
Um, so eh.
Yeah. You worked with RVD as a manager then for a brief time as well. Did you find that combination worked, or how did that come about, kind of creatively, to put you with RVD? Because it was a really kind of strange combination, I think, looking back on it. Do you think?
We actually, I just saw RVD and Alberto this past weekend. We did a show together out here in Lancaster. I knew RVD from before WWE because I used to train in Knox Pro Academy in Burbank, California, and myself, Rusev, were both we're not from there, but we trained there as well before we got signed. And so RVD did his music video, the one that he used to use in Impact and TNA, the Crushinator one, the whole Left and Show one.
Yeah.
So we filmed the music video. So there's his music video is on YouTube, and then myself and Rusev are on it. So this is years before WWE. When we got to WWE and we did that spot together, it was awkward at first because we were on the bleachers, myself, the Matadors, I think Sin Cara, one of the Sin Caras, and then Alberto. And then Malenko comes up to us and he's like, "Hey, did they tell you what's happening?" We're like, "No." And then he goes, "Ricardo, you're with RVD today." And we're like, "What the fuck?" Just like that. I was like, "What the fuck?"
Yeah.
And then he walks away and then he comes back and then he's like, "Yep, you're with RVD today." Like, in what way? And then he tells me, I was like, and I mean, I had been off TV for a bit already, so I was like, I don't know why, but fuck it. I mean, if it means I get back on TV, then I'll yeah, of course, let's go for it. Um, and I didn't get it. I didn't get it for a little while until eventually I asked Malenko. I was like, hey, I'm appreciative and I'm thankful, and I was that I'm back on TV, but what's the purpose of this? Like, I don't know how to react to what I'm doing if I don't know what the whole purpose is. And he
Yes.
basically just goes, he's like, we needed a bridge between Alberto and RVD and the title, and the bridge is you. I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
I get it. Now I get it. But yeah, when they first put us together, I didn't fucking get it.
Mm.
And that was one of the few times that I actually did go up to Vince like directly. I was like, hey, so RVD is a completely different vibe than Alberto.
Yeah.
I does the suit thing still happen? Does the bucket deal still happen? Like meh. And then can we change the attire? And then Vince is the one that brought up the whole thing with like the shirts that I was wearing that were tie dyed or that were airbrushed like RVD's tights.
Yeah.
Um, which is still, I mean, it was different, but yeah, and I'm still upset I never got a doll out of that. I never got an action figure out of it. But yeah, that was it. And then that was short lived because RVD was only there for a couple months or like a month or so,
Yeah. Short
whatever it
term
was.
contract. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So that was that. That was that.
Mm. A lot has changed lately, obviously, in that company, with Vince stepping away and John Laurinaitis going. What was what kind of relationship did you have with John Laurinaitis? You hear obviously everyone talking on the internet about this and that, but personally from you, like, what did you think of him?
Well, bear in mind too that we came in during Laurinaitis' time, so
Hmm.
we were one of his boys, Alberto and myself. I mean,
Yeah.
Sheamus, Wade, Barrett, so many. Yeah, I think even McIntyre. I think we're all from his time. So there's always going to be a sort of, I don't even know what the word is. I don't want to say favoritism. Um, But I think we did right by him and there was a bit of loyalty because he's the one that brought us in. Um, when Triple H came in, and I let me just put a disclaimer. I totally understand the process of when Triple H came in. He put his guys, at the helm, and I get it. You want to bring in your boys. I get that. So if we weren't part of his group, we got pushed aside to a bit. And I understand it's not a bitterness thing. I get it.
Yeah.
Um, it just kind of sucked for us, but um, I mean, but I also did hear all the stories, and I could see them being true. Uh,
Hmm.
we did see a lot of shady shit that I guess at the time we just kind of like, yeah, whatever. But in hindsight, as I said, hindsight 2020. I guess it could possibly, I think there is truth to the accusations. I do.
Yeah.
Um, but no, I mean, yeah, there's a lot of changes, and I'm happy for what's going on, because I do think that wrestling has to evolve constantly. Everything has to evolve. We have to progress. We have to, keep up with the times. We can't stay stagnant, and then be so prehistoric at times. So we have to constantly change with the times to keep the crowd involved and engaged. And I'm happy for all the changes that are happening. I really do hope, guys, that like Gargano. Yeah, fuck it, give him the title. Why not? I mean, what 10 years ago you would never have seen someone like Gargano as world heavyweight champion.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, fuck it. He's great. He's awesome. He's obviously done it in NXT.
Yeah.
So who can say he can't do it in WWE?
And just in closing, then, would you be open someday, obviously, to coming back into WWE as a wrestler or as a ring announcer or whatever kind of angle
I
they
would
wanted
go,
to do?
definitely, definitely, definitely. As much as I would like to explore my options, ultimately, I think for a lot of folks, the end goal would be to return back to the WWE.
Yeah.
That's where I made my name, and that's where I would like to eventually retire. Um, I know I'm not the only one that feels that way too. From people that I've spoken to, that's where we want to retire is WWE. Um, but I also have a lot of goals that have changed throughout the years. Um, I would like to go back in the backstage role. I would like to be as a producer, or even be sent down to NXT and then be a trainer. I've done it for so many years internationally. I opened up the fucking market in India. Granted, it was Kali's money, but I opened it.
Hmm.
So much that WWE and Impact went after I was done there, and they had not. WWE had not been to India in 14 years, and then when I was there, they went. Impact went as well. I just did a year in Egypt. I opened up the fucking school in Egypt. Same thing in Australia, Mexico, all over the U.S. I did time in England with the Knight family, which I'm very thankful for, because that was a learning experience. I did the camps in England, so that was fun. But and then now that I have this, have my own pro wrestling school here in Lancaster, I would definitely like to become a affiliate, whether it's to either AEW or to WWE, where I can be, let's just say, like a feeding ground for WWE or AEW. Um, because I feel, and this is me tooting my own horn. This is me fucking patting myself in the back, that I think I have the time. I've put in the time and effort into trading people, and a lot of them are actually still are there.